Hello everyone, I welcome you all to today's social science class. Today we shall discuss a new chapter of history, that is ancient civilizations of the world. Many other civilizations flourished in various parts of the world at the time of Indus Valley civilization. We can see the Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization and Chinese civilization in Asia and Africa. So in this chapter you will be learning the great civilizations of the world: Egypt, Mesopotamia and China, art, architecture and lifestyle of different civilizations. So here you have the map which is related to the ancient civilizations. So children, as I told you, this chapter you will be studying Egyptian civilization, Mesopotamian civilization and Chinese civilization. So today we shall discuss the Egyptian civilization in this session. The Egyptian civilization. Generally, all civilizations have originated in the river plains. The Egyptian civilization could take birth due to the presence of the river Nile. The relics obtained here proclaim the grandeur of Egypt. Huge pyramids, sculptures, temples, and the inscriptions in these temples tell us a lot about Egyptian culture and history. Yes, generally all civilizations have originated in the river plains. So, as all civilizations have originated in the river plains, we see the Egyptian civilization could take birth. So, the Egyptian civilization existed due to the presence of the river Nile. So, the relics obtained here proclaim the grandeur of Egypt. The relics. What are relics? Relics are nothing but the remains, the artifacts, obtained here proclaim, in the sense they reveal, they signify the grandeur, in the sense the glory, the greatness of Egypt. We see huge pyramids, sculptures, temples, and the inscriptions in these temples tell us a lot about Egyptian culture and history. So, the huge pyramids, sculptures, temples and the inscriptions in the temples tells us a lot about Egyptian culture and history. So, what are the contributions of Egyptians? The Egyptians were expert farmers. They knew a lot about irrigation. They had built temples. They invented the calendar. They had mastered the art of writing in symbolic language called hieroglyphics. It's nothing but sacred writings. So children, the Egyptians were expert farmers. In this picture you can see this relates to the Egyptians who were expert farmers. They knew a lot about irrigation. Egyptian people knew a lot about irrigation. They had built temples. They invented the calendar which has helped us to measure time. Here you can see the Egyptian calendar. More than anything else, they had mastered in the sense they had acquired, they had learned the art of writing. It was a symbolic language. Here we people use the letters which form the words and we use in the form of sentence. Whereas Egyptian people, they used the symbolic language. So here the symbolic language consisted of small drawings and has been called hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics, which means sacred writings. Now let's study about the Nile Valley. Every rainy season, the Nile River would transform the Nile Valley into a huge lake. Okay, every rainy season, the Nile River, okay, would transform into the huge lake, After the valley dried up in summer, a fertile layer of clay soil would form the grazing field and neighboring agricultural lands. So, after the valley dried up in summer, okay, I told you this Nile Valley used to turn into a huge lake. Okay, the Nile River used to turn to a huge lake in the rainy season, and in the summer season, this Nile River used to dry up, and we see a fertile layer of clay soil would form the grazing field and neighboring agricultural lands. The work that would need the labor of hundreds of people was being done by the kind river all alone. Okay, the work that would need the labor of hundreds of people in order to make the land fit for grazing and to grow agricultural crops was done by the kind river. Here, Nile River is referred as the kind river. So, this fertile land provided food for the population of the first town in the area. Not all agricultural regions were in the valley, hence, through small canals and wells, they were responsible for the development of a complex system of irrigation throughout the land. Here we see not all agricultural regions were in the valley. As I told you, the agricultural lands which were nearby the valley, okay, so those lands were supplied good water. What about the lands which are far away from the valley? So, hence through small canals and wells, they were responsible for the development of a complex system of irrigation throughout the land. So, the canals and the wells helped the agricultural lands to grow well. The prosperous, wealthy Egyptian peasants and citizens during their leisure engaged themselves in the creation of artistic works. Here we see the prosperous, wealthy Egyptian peasants. The prosperous in the sense, the well-known people, the rich countrymen of Egypt, okay, and the citizens during their leisure time, okay, leisure time in the sense their free time, okay, engaged themselves in the creation of artistic works. Here you can see the artistic works of the people of Egypt. The role of priest was created to interpret nature and explain it. The priests were scholars and shouldered the responsibility of protecting written documents. They believed in life after death. In this picture, you can see the priests. The role of the priest was created to interpret in the sense to understand the nature and explain the nature to the people. The priests were scholars, learned one, okay, and shouldered the responsibility. They took over the responsibility of protecting the written documents. So, as these priests were the scholars, they protected the written documents. Okay, they took the responsibility to protect the written documents, and they believed in life after death. They believed that man had to give an account of his deeds on the earth to Osiris. Okay, they believed that man had to give an account. Here they refers to the priests had to give an account of his deeds on earth to Osiris, the most powerful god of life and death. The people of Egyptian had to give an account of his deeds on the earth, of one's deeds, maybe good or bad. To whom? To Osiris, who is called the most powerful god of life and death. So, which god is called as the most powerful god of life and death? Goes to Osiris. The priests considered that life on the earth was temporary and was needed only to prepare for the next life. Thus, the whole of the Nile Valley was reserved for the dead. Yes, children, as I told you, the priests were learned people, in the sense they were the scholars. They shouldered the responsibility of protecting the written documents, and their responsibility was to understand the nature and explain it to the people, countrymen. So here, these priests considered that life on the earth was temporary and was needed only to prepare for the next life. They believed that there is life after death. So thus, the whole of the Nile Valley was reserved for the dead. And we see the dead body would be smeared with various chemicals and wrapped with a thin cloth. The entire body was in this way preserved. You see, children, many methods take place in order to preserve the dead body. So, the dead body would be smeared, in the sense applied with various chemicals and wrapped with a thin cloth, and the entire body was in this way preserved. So the body protected thus was called a mummy. Okay, the dead body which was protected, which was preserved, was called a mummy. It would be kept in a specially designed coffin. What is coffin? Coffin is nothing but a long narrow box of wood or any metal in which a dead body is buried or cremated. So it would be kept, the body used to be kept in a specially designed coffin. The grave was considered the true place for an Egyptian. Okay, here we people say that our true place is a house, is our own house. Okay, so whereas the Egyptian people believed that the grave as a true place for them. Hence, all around the dead body, items needed for daily use and small dolls of a cook and barber would be kept to fulfill all future needs. Okay, as these Egyptians, they believed that there is life after death, so they started to prepare, get ready for the next life. Okay, hence all around the dead body, items needed for the daily use like small dolls, maybe of cook, barber, would be kept in order to fulfill all their future needs. In the beginning, graves were created by carving into the rocks in the hills. As the Egyptians moved north, they had to construct graves in the desert life. So, in the beginning, graves were created by carving into the rocks in the hills. Okay, earlier in the beginning, we see the graves were carved into the rocks in the hills, and later on, when these Egyptians moved towards the north direction, they had to construct graves in the desert itself. Okay, so children, when we see the pyramids, these pyramids are not between the trees or the houses. Okay, we see the pyramids are in the desert. So Tall towers were built on these graves using huge blocks of stone in order to protect the eternal sleep of the dead. Okay, tall towers. Okay, the graves were called as tall towers were built on these graves using huge blocks. Okay, the graves, the place where the body used to be buried, it is called as a grave. On that we see the tall towers were built using huge blocks of stone in order to protect the eternal sleep of the dead. Kings and wealthy people viewed with each other to build taller and taller towers. Okay, kings and wealthy people. Okay, kings are also the rich one, and wealthy people, the richest people, viewed with each other. They competed with each other to build taller and taller towers. So the Greeks called these structures as pyramids. The Greeks called these structures as pyramids. The kings of Egypt were called pharaohs. Pharaoh means a person who lives in a palatial house. The peasants who had accepted the rule of powerful Osiris now accepted the rule of pharaohs too. So the kings of Egypt were called as pharaohs. Okay, pharaoh means a person who lives in a palatial house. So children, we see that the tall towers which were built on the graves using huge blocks were called as pyramids by the Greeks. And the king of Egypt was called as pharaoh. Pharaoh means a person who lives in a palatial house. After an independent, prosperous life of 20 centuries, Egypt was ruled over by an Arabian shepherd tribe called Hyksos, which attacked it and after defeating it ruled for 500 years. They looted the wealth of the natives and hence did not become popular. So, after an independent, prosperous life for 20 centuries, okay, Egypt, they led an independent, prosperous life for 20 centuries. After which we see Egypt was ruled over by an Arabian shepherd tribe called as Hyksos, which attacked Egypt and after defeating it ruled for 500 years. Okay, Hyksos, an Arabian shepherd tribe, it ruled Egypt for 500 years. They looted the wealth of the natives and hence did not become popular. Next comes the Jews, who came wandering through the deserts in search of shelter, were also hated by the people of Egypt. By cooperating with the foreign rule, the Jews even assisted them in collecting taxes in the administration. So, in 1700 BCE, the people of Thebes rose in revolt against the foreigners. Okay, in 1700 BCE, the people of Thebes rose in revolt. They fought against the foreigners after a prolonged conflict in the sense the continued conflict. They succeeded in driving Hyksos out of their country, and we see Egypt became free once again. Okay, Egypt became free once again. After 1,000 years, it came under the rule of Sardanapalus of Assyria. The Persian emperor Cambyses occupied Egypt in the 6th century BCE. Okay, after the rule of Southern Palace of Assyria in Egypt, we see the Persian Emperor Cambyses occupied Egypt in the 6th century BCE. Then Alexander the Great occupied Persia in the 4th century BCE. Then Egypt became the province of Macedonia. Okay, one of the Alexander's military generals declared himself the king of Egypt. Okay, one of the Alexander's military general, a person, okay, who was in the military under Alexander, he declared himself the king of Egypt and established the dynasty of the Ptolemy. And we see, children, Alexander the Great founded the city of Alexandria. Alexander the Great founded the city of Alexandria. At last, we see the Romans came in 39 BCE. At last came the Romans in 39 BCE. So we see at that time the last Egyptian queen, Cleopatra, tried her best to save her country. Okay, when Romans attacked Egypt, so the Egypt, we see who was ruling Egypt during the time when Romans attacked Egypt. We see the last queen, Egyptian queen Cleopatra. She tried her level best to save her country. It was said that the Romans feared her beauty more than her troops. Okay, it was said that the Romans were scared. Okay, Cleopatra's beauty was made feared in Romans. Okay, Romans feared her beauty more than her troops, in a sense, soldiers. Twice she was successful in her attack upon the hearts of the Roman conquerors. Okay, she was twice successful, okay, in winning the battle against Romans. However, in 30 BCE, Julius Caesar's successor, his son-in-law Augustus, did not succumb to her beauty like his father-in-law. Okay, what we see earlier, when Romans, in the sense during the rule of Julius Caesar, when Romans attacked Egypt during the rule of Egyptian queen, last queen Cleopatra, Romans were scared of Cleopatra's beauty. Okay, they were not ready to win the battle. So twice they lost the battle. So later on, Julius Caesar's successor in 30 BCE, his son-in-law Augustus did not succumb to her beauty. He did not surrender himself to her beauty like his father-in-law. So Augustus' father-in-law, Julius Caesar. So he did not succumb. Augustus, he did not succumb to her beauty in the sense Cleopatra's beauty, but defeated her army, though he spared her life. Okay, Augustus, he defeated Egypt. He attacked Egypt and defeated, but he did not take Cleopatra's life. Okay, he gave the life to Cleopatra when he planned to carry her away along with the other spoils of the battle. Cleopatra consumed poison and ended her life. So children, Augustus, when he attacked Egypt, we see he spoiled everything. He won the battle, but he gave life to Cleopatra. When he planned to carry her away along with the other spoils of the battle, what did Cleopatra do? she consumed poison and ended her life. From then onwards, Egypt became a province of Rome. Yes, at the end, we see the rule of the last Egyptian queen Cleopatra. The Egypt rule came to an end, and this Egypt became a province of Rome. So children, in today's session you have learnt about the Egyptian civilization. I hope you have understood. Watch this video again and again to understand the concept clearly. Thank you children.